Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our first Lunch and Learn in this series. My name's Sally. I'm the Policy Manager at Disability Employment Australia, and I will be your host for the series of webinars that we will be hosting. To begin today, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which each of us are joining from. For me, that's the land of the Darkinjung people, and I pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. Some housekeeping to begin with. If you would like to turn on the captions, please use the closed caption, the CC button at the bottom of your screen in your Zoom controls. We'll also be posting a link in the chat and you can access the captions through there. If you have any issues accessing the captions, you can message us in the chat and we will work on addressing those for you. If you have any other access needs, also please pop them in the chat and we'll work to address those as well while we can. The Lunch and Learn webinars are being presented by Disability Employment Australia and the Centre for Inclusive Employment. And today there will be a series of webinars that we will be hosting across the next 4 Wednesdays, and they will each cover a series of practical topics and be complete with resources and practical actions that you can undertake as we move into the new Inclusive Employment Australia contract. For today's webinar, I'm joined by Jenny Crosby. Jenny is the Interim Director at the Centre for Inclusive Employment and is based at Swinburne University. Jenny is not only an accomplished academic, but she also has a history in employment services, in both delivering and leading services, but also in systemic policy and advocacy matters. She was the first Executive Officer of Disability Employment Australia and has worked for a number of different providers as well. So please join with me in welcoming Jenny, and she will be presenting our session today on the Centre for Inclusive Employment.
Thank you very much, Sally, for that introduction. I'll just share my screen so that everybody can see my slides. Yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for joining us today over your lunch break, or if you're in Western Australia or one of the other states, perhaps your brunch or morning tea break. We really appreciate you joining us today to hear a bit more about the Centre for Inclusive Employment. I'd also like to acknowledge that I'm joining today from Wurundjeri land in Melbourne, and acknowledge any Aboriginal people who are joining us today, and also pay my respects to elders past and present. All right, so today's session, to launch the Lunch and Learn series, what we decided to do was just give you an orientation to the new Centre for Inclusive Employment online hub. So what we're going to do today is just walk you through the hub and the different, the way it's structured and the different resources that are available to Inclusive Employment Australia providers now. The hub has not gone live yet. It will be going live around the 1st of November. So if you're not from an Inclusive Employment Australia provider, you don't have access to the hub at the moment, but you will have in the next few weeks. Some of you will have heard me present before, or have some information about the centre. So just to give you a quick overview, the purpose of this Centre for Inclusive Employment is to collect, translate and share best practice information about what works in disability employment. So we know there's lots of evidence out there. There's practice-based evidence, there's academic evidence, and there's emerging evidence. But we don't have a central place where that evidence is collected, translated and shared with, particularly with people who are providing employment services. So the overarching aim of the centre is to do those things. And of course, by collecting, translating and sharing that information, the employment outcomes for people with disabilities will hopefully improve. So there's many ways that providers will be able to intersect with the centre. The primary mechanism, as I've just said, is the Centre for Inclusive Employment Online Hub, available now to providers. The hub will host resources which are focused on disability awareness, employer engagement, and the building blocks to employment. And there will also be resources, training and toolkits and other resources. The online hub will be built out over time as new resources are added. We were funded in March and we became operational in July. So the website or the online hub is very much, we're at the starting line rather than the finishing line. So the architecture's been built, the design work's been done, and now we'll be building the hub out over time. We're also working with some engineers at Swinburne who are going to create a chatbot to enable online hub users to search what we call a bounded evidence set. So as we build the evidence base for what works, we'll enable you to search that evidence base. So rather than it searching everything on the internet, it'll search just what we have assessed as being, good practice, good evidence. One of the first things that we launched back in May was the Inclusive Employment Australia collection. So Australian Policy Online, APO, are an independent website, and they host research collections. So we have worked with them to create this collection called the Inclusive Employment Australia collection. It's now live on APO, and it will also be searchable through the online hub. So there are now 212 resources available in there, mostly not academic articles, mostly resources and tools and reports that have been written. And so we're curating that collection and making sure that all of the information that's available in there is very topical and related to disability and employment. In terms of the design of the hub, we did run design workshops, and some of you on the call today may have been part of those. And the decision was taken to design the hub in a role agnostic way. So that means that the evidence about what works is available to everybody, including people with disability, families, employers, and the employment service workforce. So rather than organising the hub by role type, for providers, for people with disabilities, etc., the decision was made to make the information available to everybody. And we're hoping that by making the evidence about what works widely available, it will drive change in the sector through people with disabilities being more aware of what works and coming into providers and asking for the types of supports and services that they now know can lead to the employment outcomes, for example. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to just step you through some of the key pages of the website, the online hub, so that you can, hopefully after the webinar, you'll be able to go and have a look at the resources. We won't be deep diving into any of the resources today. It's really, the purpose is to give you an orientation to the site so that you can find the resources you need. So this is the homepage for the Centre for Inclusive Employment. You might recognise the design there, those of you who are Inclusive Employment Australia providers. So the design and branding is very much aligned to the new branding that you will have received from DSS as well. And also the images that you'll see have all been supplied by DSS. So we've got a welcome page there which outlines just some basic information about the purpose of the centre, the kind of work we'll be doing and how we'll be supporting providers. We have a featured news section on the page, on the hub, and certainly this is one way to stay up to date quickly with what's changed on the hub. So we'll be making sure that as we build out the hub over time, we've got a few strategies around ensuring that we're aligning new resources. For example, we might align resource releases with particular days of celebration or weeks where there's a focus at the moment. For example, it's Down Syndrome Month, so we might be adding resources that relate to people with Down syndrome or intellectual disability as part of a sort of a coordinated drop of resources. So in the meantime, come here to the featured news section, and this is where you'll see the most recent and up-to-date information. So you can see there that the Lunch and Learns are linked there. We also have the employer engagement and capability page linked, and also the building disability awareness and confidence page. And I'm going to talk to you about those a bit more in a minute. So in terms of building out the website, the Department of Social Services had a very strong emphasis for our first few months of work on two particular topics. So the first is understanding disability, and the second is employer engagement. So as well as standing up the website, it was part of our remit was to build out resources and information under these two topics. So when you use the hub, you'll see that these two sections of the website are more built out than other sections, and that's the reason why those other sections will be built out over the next few months. So this section is called Understanding Disability, and the reason that this has been called out by the department and others is because there was recommendations in the Disability Royal Commission reports about lifting up awareness of disability and understanding of particular disability types amongst the employment services workforce. So this particular topic has a direct link back to the Disability Royal Commission. So on each page, you'll see that there's a landing page, which was the page I just showed you, and then we go into the next level of page, which has a menu down the side, and you can see that under Understanding Disability, we've got a number of topics that we'll be building out, including models of disability, types of disability, building disability awareness, identifying barriers to employment, and setting up conditions for success. So, those 5 sections will be built out over time. So on the overview page, you'll see we've put some quotes there from people with disabilities themselves, and we have come into building this online hub very much looking to bring the voice, raise up the voice of people with lived experience of disability themselves in the resources and information that's provided. We've put a short video here that was produced last year for International Day of Persons with Disability. And that man there is actually Dean, and he used to be DEA's ambassador. He was our ambassador for probably about 5 years. So it's ironic that that screenshot has him as one of the people that's featured in that video. So it's just a nice little video just to hear the voices of people with disability. So then on each page, there'll be key strategies for success, which, as I just outlined, are in that menu on the left-hand side. So you will be able to click onto each of these strategies, and that will lead you to further information, resources, and tools. So it's a layered approach. There's some information on the first page, and then the information gets more complex and deeper as you move through the pages. So in terms of what we've got on offer in the Understanding Disability section, we've also added under the Training and Resources section an online training module, which has been written by ADSET, who work in the higher education space around disability inclusion. And it's a short module on Introduction to Disability Awareness that has a micro-credential. So you're welcome to click on that link, and that will take you to the ADSET page, and you're able to undertake that training and achieve that short micro-credential. So then we move into types of disability, and so we debated how to present this information, but the design work we resolved in the end that we did need to dive into different types of disability, given the different support needs people have, the different workplace adjustments people with different disability types have. So, and we through the design process, we heard that this is the kind of information that the frontline workforce really need when they're meeting a new person for the first time, or they're they've got a few different people with a particular disability type, so having this really practical information was really important. So there's the landing page, so types of disability, and there's again another image supplied by DSS there of a person with their guide dog. So again, we go into the overview page. So there's some information on this page. We've tried to put a quote for in each page so that, again, we can really call out that lived experience voice. And so on each overview page, there's just some basic information or brief information to lead you through to the next section. So once you click through, we have listed disability types in alphabetical order, and they're not all built out as yet. So what we've done for this section is we've reached out to the disability representative organisations who are funded by the Department of Social Services and have their own resources that they've created. So where possible, we've called on those disability representative organisations and brought their information over. We weren't able to do that all the time, so you'll see there's a mix of resources there from the Australian Human Rights Commission, from Job Access, and from some other disability-led organisations as well. So you'll see that it says autism and neurodivergence there, and you can click there and that will take you through to some information about autism and neurodivergence, which has come from the Autism Alliance, the disability rep organisation. And then underneath each section there is going to be guides. So for this particular section, the guide is about how to support a neurodivergent workforce. And what we found in reviewing the information is there's a lot of guides and resources that have actually been written for employers, not so much that's been written for employment service providers. So you'll sometimes see that these resources are written in the language of, for an employer, but in terms of how providers can use it, providers are the broker, if you like, or the bridge between people with disabilities and employers. So we're hoping that those resources will be useful in supporting the providers to speak to employers and advocate for people with disabilities in the workforce. So you can also see there blind and vision impaired is another category, and the resource there, the guide there, is called An Eye to the Future, unlocking the potential of employing people who are blind or vision impaired, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail in a minute. Cognitive and intellectual disability, we don't have any guides there at the moment, but there is a link there that you can read more information from one of the advocacy organisations. Communication disability, deaf and hard of hearing is there, and we've got 2 resources there around building competency for supporting people who are deaf or hard of hearing, and also some everyday communication tips for supporting people with deafness and hearing loss. So they're both nice practical resources that can help build understanding of how to communicate with deaf and hard of hearing people, and provide you with some good tips. We've also got some language guides. So there's a video and transcript there, and also some text there about why language matters, why inclusive language is important, and how we can really understand how language can really impact on the way we support people with disabilities, and the way we talk about people with disabilities to others, including employers. So it's there's a nice little language guide there that's been developed by people with lived experience themselves. So if we jump back to blind and vision impaired, this is the one that I thought we would do the deep dive into. So this resource here, this guide, An Eye to the Future, unlocking the potential of employing people who are blind or vision impaired, it was created by Blind Citizens Australia, who are a disability representative organisation, and they had funding from the Department of Social Services to create this resource. So we thought that rather than replicating or duplicating, this was a nice resource that we could bring over and make available. So as we move through, once we click on to the resource heading, you can see there that it brings up a page with some of the links there. So we're trying to categorise all of the resources that are available to make them more easily searchable. So if you search the word accessibility, then this guide would be one of the resources that appeared in your search. And then there's, of course, a link at the bottom there that you can click onto to get access to the resource. So if we click through, it's a Word document, this one, a 19-page step-by-step guide that contains information about supporting people who are blind or vision impaired into employment. It's been very well written. It's got sections on technology, on common types of vision impairment, mobility. So really a lot of key issues that employment service support staff would need to understand to support a person who's blind or vision impaired who's looking for employment. So as I said, over time, each of these sections will be built out. So when you go on the hub, you might see that some links are not clicking yet, and that's because we haven't built out those sections of the hub yet, but we are working on it as we speak, and we've got a second round of content going live in about 6 weeks' time. So keep coming back and checking those sections, because we'll be building out those resources between now and the end of the year. And also you'll find that there's not as many practical tools, day-to-day sort of use tools at the moment, but that's a strong focus for our work at the moment, is to really link the evidence to practice by providing tools and checklists and language guides and other things that people can use day-to-day as they're delivering services. All right, so let's jump over to the other major section on the website, which is called Building Blocks to Employment. And again, we worked with a number of design groups to try to understand how is the best way to present information about what works in relation to disability employment. And yeah, we landed on this sort of building blocks language because it's not necessarily linear, but each of these building blocks contains a lot of the practice and the supports that really lead to good outcomes for people. So you can see up the top there, that's where you find the Building Blocks to Employment menu. So you can access this part of the website by going to the menu across the top and clicking on Building Blocks to Employment. Once again, it has a landing page and some brief information about what you'll find in this section. And then we go into the key strategies for success. So for this section of the website, there are 6 key strategies for success, and each one of them will be built out across those various layers so that there's access to information, evidence, and also those practical tools and resources. So the strategies for success for the building blocks, the first one is laying foundations for work. So this is about getting ready for work and transition from school to work, returning to work, those kinds of topics will be featured here. Getting to know the job seeker is the second key strategy, and this relates to vocational assessments and vocational plans, workplace adjustments, conditions for success, which is sort of this language we're leaning into about, making sure environments are well set up for people, strengths-based approaches, that kind of thing. In the third section in the key strategies, we have skills development, and this section will be built out around both, accredited training and courses that people can do, but also how people can learn while they earn, but also undertake internships and other skills development programs in the workplace. The fourth section is employer engagement and capability building, and that one we'll have a look at in a bit more detail in a minute. So this is the most built out one of these building blocks when you're on the page. The fifth one is job development and matching. So this is really focusing attention on how we can support employers to adjust the way that work is designed so that people with disabilities can take up work roles. And then the last one is ongoing support and career progression. So this one is this section will also cover on-site support, as well as ongoing support. But we also want to have a strong focus here on career progression because, like everybody, people with disabilities want to move through across time and, keep developing their skills and, move into different jobs or more senior jobs, that kind of thing. All right, so now we're going to do a little deep dive into employer engagement and capability building. Remembering that this was one of the sections that the Department of Social Services did call out for us in the tender. So again, we've as we move through the layers, we've got 4 main headings here that you can orient to. The first one, understanding your local labour market. The second, connecting with employers. The third, building effective relationships with employers. And the fourth one, building employer capability to offer inclusive employment opportunities. So all 4 of these have been built out. And once you are on the website, you can go in and have a look at some of the information and resources in all the sections. But for now, we're just going to have a quick look at understanding your local labour market. So now we go into the overview page for understanding your local labour market, and there's another nice image there of a young man standing against a fence, and I think he looks to me like somebody working in the renewable energy sector or some type of sector like that. So again, you can see there's an overview there and a little bit of information just to orient the reader to what's in this section. So inside this section, we have a number of resources that we wanted to let you know about. So the first is, for those of you who've been to the Disability Employment Australia conference for the last few years, you probably recognise Callum there from Indeed, who comes and gives a market overview, a labour market overview at each conference. So we've asked him to do one each quarter for us. So each quarter we'll add one of these labour market insights videos, and they're very informative about where jobs growth is, which industries are growing, unemployment rates, all of that sort of. He's an economist by training, so lots of economic sort of data there, but it helps to get an overview of what's happening in the labour market at a broad level. So you can go ahead and watch that. That's live on the hub now, and I think it goes for about 30 minutes. We also have added the Jobs and Skills Atlas. So this is a new database that's been developed by the Department of, I'm going to have to guess, industry of some sort. So they launched this in the middle of the year, and it's a really great resource where you can search in real time in your local ESA, local suburbs. The data, it becomes quite granular, the data, but it can help you understand where there's growth industries in your area. So while Callum's got a national focus on his piece, this Jobs and Skills Atlas really lets providers get down into the weeds, if you like, of what's going on in their local labour market. Oh, my light just went off, sorry. There's also occupation and industry profiles there, so that gives you up-to-date trends and insights into Australia's job market by occupation and industry. So again, leading on from Callum's piece about where the growth industries are, these 2 tools allow providers to really dive much more deeply into their local area. So once you click on it, you'll get to the Jobs and Skills Atlas page, and you can see again those orange words and phrases, and that's how we have set it up so that you can search for these tools. So you'll see there's different tags for these ones. We've got labour supply, labour force, occupations, those kinds of things. So click there, click on the words there, and that will take you to the resource. And here's the resource itself. So this is an external page, and actually it's funded out of the Jobs and Skills Council. Councils have funded this. And they do run webinars. They do run webinars teaching people how to use this particular tool. So if you haven't been to one, that might be worthwhile doing. But there's lots of information there, as I said, on your particular region. The training and resources page is up in the main menu as well, and this is where we'll be building out the opportunities for attending training, live training, webinars, but also online training, self-paced training. They'll all be under this training and resources section, and this is also the section where the resources I talked before about the searchable database. The searchable collection, so this is how you'll access that as well. So you can see there that we've got the lunch and learns are there so that people can register for these. We've also got a lovely free online training module that's been developed by the Human Rights Commission, and that's called Building a Culture of Accessibility and Inclusion. So that's free to use. And then the Introduction to Disability Awareness online self-paced module that I referred to earlier is also available here. So this is one section that will grow considerably over time. All right, well, that's the end of the sort of quick orientation to the website. So hopefully we encourage you all to go and have a look at the website. And also there is a page on the website. If you've come across any broken links or something's not working for you, please let us know. And you can also use the info@centreforInclusiveemployment.au email address. So if you've got a suggestion or there's something you like or don't like about the website, something that you would like to see added, please feel free to send us an email. We are in what's called beta mode at the moment. So that means we're in a testing mode for a few months. So we've made the hub available just to Inclusive Employment Australia providers at the moment, and then later to the general audience. But we will stay in beta mode for quite a few months while people use the resources, use the site, and give us feedback about how it's working from both a usability perspective, but also from accessibility and other perspectives. So for now, we encourage you to sign or follow us on LinkedIn. Our LinkedIn page went live last week. So if you search for Centre for Inclusive Employment, you'll see that there, and we encourage you to follow us. We will have a newsletter sign up coming soon that will be available on the hub, and we'll also send that out to people through other channels as well and on the LinkedIn. So we're just waiting on a couple of final steps, and then we'll have a newsletter available, and that will we'll send that out sort of monthly with lots of information about what's happening. We encourage you to utilise the resources that are created. We've got a strong emphasis on practice change with the resources we're developing. So we'd like you to use them. We'd like you to tell us whether they're working, whether you like them, and also to create feedback loops so that we can develop resources that meet the needs of the sector. Engage in activities. So into next year, we'll be developing communities of practice and other ways to engage with the centre, so to help embed good practice. So again, we encourage you to keep an eye out for those and engage in those, and we'll give you more information next year about that. And as I said, providing that feedback to us is really important while we're into this while we're in this beta mode. All right, well, that's at the end of the presentation about the online hub, but I did just want to take a couple minutes just to let people know or give an update about the Fundamentals for Inclusive Employment training program. Hopefully most of you now know that there are going to be funded places available in this program. So it's a sector-led training program that's been developed. It used to be called DES Fundamentals, so it's been rewritten and reworked for the new guidelines. The funded places are hopefully going to start to be available next week, so stay tuned. You'll get more information hopefully in the next couple of days about that. We're running a bit close to the wire with this one, but there's been a few changes which many of you would be aware of to parts of the program. So we've just been waiting for those to be finalised before the training's available. It's an online self-paced training program, and it is micro-credentialed. And also 50 CPD points are available on completion via the DEA program. And the primary aim of the training is to support Inclusive Employment Australia staff to deliver the employment services aligned with the new guidelines. So it's very much drawing from the guidelines and the changes in how the program will be delivered, and supporting staff to really sort of make those come alive. So yeah, hopefully we'll have some more information either late this week or early next week about how you enrol in that. This is the first of our lunch and learn sessions, as Sally said, so please sign up for the next one. We've got Georgia from Job Access presenting about workplace modifications. So that should be an interesting one, and she'll also be orienting particularly new providers to what Job Access can provide. So come along to that one at the same time next week. All right, thank you very much for listening.
Thanks so much, Jenny. We've had a number of questions come through. If anyone has any other questions that they would like to ask, pop them in the chat and we'll do our best to get around to everyone. But I've tried to group them together into some themes so we can cover off on as much as possible. Jenny, to begin with, there's been a lot of questions about accessing the website. Who has access at the moment? When will people who work for organisations that don't have Inclusive Employment Australia contracts have access? And can you provide any insights on where people could access usernames and passwords, as people seem to be asked for them as well?
So originally we did think it was going live on the 1st of September, and that's what we worked towards. But there was a slight change in focus internally within the department. So right now it's only available to organisations that are an Inclusive Employment Australia provider. So if you work for one of those organisations and you haven't been given the access information, I suggest that you just check internally, because it has been given to the key contact in your organisation, the key contact that DSS has. So my understanding is that it's going live to the rest of, to everybody else around the 1st of November. So I believe it is going to be launched in conjunction with the launch of the new Inclusive Employment Australia program by the Minister. And so that's when it'll be live to everybody else.
And in terms of the content that's available, how can providers use that? Are they able to reference it in their own materials? Is there a sort of a process for permission and anything around referencing that they should be aware of?
So all of the information that's on the hub is what we're calling freely available. So you won't be charged any fees for any of the information. You don't have to, you don't have to pay for any of the resources. So in terms of copyright and intellectual property, I guess the intellectual property for the centre is owned by the Commonwealth. So like any copyright or intellectual property, if you were to use a resource, it would be great to make an acknowledgement to the author, and particularly if it's one of the disability representative organisations, for example. But yes, use them freely. The intention is that the resources are used widely, and our hope is that they'll be used in a day-to-day way, so that people have got the checklist and the tools and the language guides they need to deliver services directly. I'm not sure if that answered the question.
I think we sort of covered off on training and resources and what's up there at the moment, and there's more coming. There's a question around, will people receive a certificate of completion after completing any of the training available on the hub?
So right now you do receive a micro-credential, as I said, for doing the ADSET training, the disability awareness training that ADSET have run. So we're still in our early startup days, and we are actually working or about to start working with Human Ability, who are the Jobs and Skills Council organisation for the human services sector. So they're very interested in the work that we're going to be doing, and they want to, where possible, align any training opportunities we have with accreditation and, sort of stepping stones, and also this notion of micro-credentialing. But I also believe that DEA members will be able to, many of the resources that are going to be available, like today, I think there's 2 CPD points available for DEA members today for attending this webinar. So where possible, we'll align our offerings with those types of programs that are offering a form of accreditation for individuals as well.
Lovely. And we've got a question around measuring the number of staff in a workplace with disability. Will there be any resources on how to effectively measure staffing numbers? Person references there being a lot of policy around measurement, but perhaps not much guidance on how to do it effectively.
It is a complex one, and it's a complex one internationally, not just in Australia. So we know that generally disability is underreported through formal mechanisms, but we know that where there's an anonymous survey, for example, that's more focused on staff wellbeing and organisational culture, that kind of thing, then we tend to see higher levels of people self-reporting. So I'll take that one on notice, but certainly what we would like to see is the work of the centre being focused on creating employment opportunities for people with disability in a very broad way. So not just through direct services through programs like Inclusive Employment Australia, but also through procurement strategies and other mechanisms. So I think being able to measure that is probably important. So I'll definitely take that one on notice.
Excellent. And just coming back to that access question, for those who are providing NDIS funded employment supports, they'll have access, was it the 1st of November, you said, to the site?
So this is to sorry, can you ask that question again? Do you mean to non-IEA providers?
Yes.
At this stage, we've been told that it's from the 1st of November, but we haven't had that confirmed. So I think you'll see that there'll be some launch activities for Inclusive Employment Australia, and my understanding is that our online hub will be launched at the same time. Yeah. For those of you who've looked at the date, that is actually a Saturday. So we suspect that it's probably going to be the 3rd of November.
Yeah. Fantastic. We just have one more.
I'm getting a few questions about the logging in, I can see.
Yes.
So one thing, so we had to set the restricted access up with a password, which is obviously not how it will work in the long run. And we know that some of the IT systems that providers work within, so with the right fit for risk requirements and so forth, that we are having a couple of organisations reporting IT problems. But if you don't, your manager should have also forwarded you the login details. So if you received the right login, you don't need to log in. It's built into the URL. But for some people, they do need the manual login details, and your manager should have forwarded those to you as well. But if you send an email to info@, centrefoриnclusiveemployment.au, I can send those to you.
There is a question in the chat around the Learning Centre and access to ESS. That's separate to the Centre for Inclusive Employment, but I will get back to the person that's asked that question directly with some specific information on that.
We won't be having compliance training, that kind of focus in our centre. So our centre is much more focused around the evidence about what works. So yes, you'll still have to complete your sort of mandatory training over in the ESS side, yes.
Absolutely. I think that's it for the questions, and we are getting close to time. So if anyone has any further questions after today, feel free to reach out either to myself at Disability Employment Australia or the Centre for Inclusive Employment so that we can get back to you. But to wrap up, I just want to let people know that a recording from today, as well as the presentation, will be made available after the webinar. I'd like to thank Jenny for joining us today and sharing about the hub and the fundamentals for inclusive employment training that is going to be made available. Also like to thank the team that are working behind the scenes to make today possible, to Hanif and Liv and everyone else. And just remind you that next week our webinar will be on at the same time, and I'll be talking with Georgia from Job Access about workplace modifications. So thank you so much for joining us, and have a lovely day, everyone.
Thanks, Sally. Well done.